is Misti Green, and you're listening to the I Lead Misty Blue podcast, where strategy meets soul and faith finds its voice. Pull up a chair, the table is set. We talk a lot about the weight, and not in the surface way, not in the way that just sounds good when you say it out loud. I'm talking about the kind of weight or heaviness that settles into your life when you're in a season of waiting, when you're in what feels like the wilderness, when you're holding something that hasn't fully come together yet, but you know it matters. It's the weight of decisions that don't come easy, the weight of prayers that haven't been answered in the way you expected or on your timeline, the weight of knowing something is shifting, something is forming, something is being prepared, and yet you don't have full clarity on what that looks like. And if you've ever really been in that space, then you already know that kind of weight doesn't just sit on your shoulders. It settles into your chest. It changes how you breathe, how you think, how you move through your day. It stretches you. It builds something in you that cannot be built any other way. And if I'm being honest, the weight is not always comfortable, but it is necessary because the weight is where we begin to hear God more clearly. We feel his presence more deeply and we see his direction more intimately. It's where distractions fall away. It's where you start to understand that not every no is rejection. Sometimes it really is protection. It's where you sit in that tension between what you hoped for and what hasn't arrived yet. And you learn how to trust God right in the middle of it. But the pause is different from the wait. And for a long time, I didn't separate the two because they often show up in the same season. They sit really close to each other and they even feel connected, but they aren't the same thing. The weight presses you, the pause settles you. The wait asks for something from you. The pause gives something back to you. And if you're not careful, you'll try to work your way through a season that was never meant to be worked through because the pause is not about effort. It's about alignment. Psalms 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." And I think we've heard that so many times that it feels familiar, almost comforting in a surface way. But when you really sit with it, it's not just comfort, it's instruction. Be still, not move slower, not figure it out quicker, not try harder. Be still. There are seasons where stillness is the assignment, and that's hard, especially if you're a visionary or someone who leads, someone who builds, someone who carries responsibility, because we've been wired to move, to decide, to fix, to create clarity, even when it doesn't exist yet. But I've learned something. There is a kind of clarity that will never come while you're moving. You cannot always be in motion. There are times you must be still. There are answers that will not rise while you're rushing. There is truth that only surfaces when everything else settles. This past year, I found myself in a space where decisions needed to be made, but they didn't need to be rushed. And that's a different kind of tension, especially for someone like me, someone who moves, who goes quickly, who intentionally fixes things, because urgency will make you feel like you need to land somewhere just to relieve the pressure. But discernment will tell you to wait, even when it's uncomfortable. I remember talking to my aunt, And she said something so simple, but it gave me permission in a way I didn't realize I needed. She said, Misty, you can change your mind whenever you want. It sounds so silly at this big age to realize that this is the reality. You can change your mind whenever you want. And I didn't brush or rush past that because somewhere along the way, I started believing that once I made a decision, I had to stay in it no matter what. That reconsidering means that I lacked clarity or there was a level of hypocrisy. That shifting meant I was unstable or unsteady. But sometimes what it really means is that that we're paying attention. It means we're allowing space for truth to fully form before we commit to something that will shape our lives. And I had to ask myself, am I confused? Or am I in a pause? Because confusion feels like scattered, the pause feels intentional. Confusion will pull you in different directions and have you questioning every aspect of your decision. But the pause holds you still long enough to see clearly. And that distinction is what truly matters. We have to be aware enough and clear enough to accept not everything in my life, in your life, is covenant. There are spaces where you stay, where you repair, where you honor what you said yes to. But everything is not that. Some things show up as decisions, some things represent as opportunities, some things are business moves, they're transitions, they're next steps that have not rooted themselves in a way that requires permanence. They allow for pivot. And in those spaces, the pause becomes a gift. It gives you room to hear yourself think, to reflect. The pause gives you room to hear God. It gives you room to let everything rise without rushing to silence it with a rash decision. I've come to believe the pause is protective. It sits as a close cousin to the wait. And the wait protects you by preparing you, but the pause protects you by preventing you from moving too soon. And if you've ever moved too soon, you understand that. You understand what it feels like to commit to something before clarity showed up, to say yes when something in you was still unsettled, to move forward just to relieve the discomfort of waiting, and then realize you stepped into something you weren't fully aligned with. The pause interrupts that. It resets you, it grounds you, it brings you back into alignment before you step into something that requires steadiness and stability or stay ability. So if you find yourself in a pause right now, don't label it as delay. Don't assume something is wrong just because it feels quiet. God is not absent in your stillness. Sometimes He is most present there. Sometimes the silence isn't empty, it's full of things finally settling into place. And when you come out of it, you won't be guessing. You won't be reacting. You won't live with a level of regret or question. You'll be grounded in what you choose next because you gave yourself the space to get there honestly. So let the pause be what it is. Don't rush it and don't fight it. Don't try to turn it into something it was never meant to be because when it lifts, you won't just be ready, you'll be aligned. This is Misti Green, and you've been listening to the I Lead Misty Blue podcast, where strategy meets soul and faith finds its voice. If this conversation stayed with you for a moment, if it met you somewhere in your own season, I want you to stay connected here. This space is for building, for becoming, and for learning how to move with both faith and clarity, especially in seasons that don't always make sense right away. And if you feel led, join the conversation, not from a place of pressure, but from a place of presence. There is something powerful about realizing you're not the only one navigating a pause. Until next time, pull up a chair. The table is always set.